It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wide discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.
Brr. Hello there, South Mississippi, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. All right, we've been talking about it all last week and all this weekend, the cold coming, and if you can tell, it's cold out there. It's some of the coldest weather we've seen all season, in some cases all year. Some of the temperatures we have right now are colder than some of the stuff we had earlier in the year in February and January. So let's take a look at exactly what's happening right now. Later in the video, we're going to talk about Christmas, take a quick early peek at that. But before we get to Christmas, let's start off with a beautiful sunny sky over Gulfport. During the 8 o'clock hour, the temperature in Gulfport is 29 degrees. But check it out, we are not just talking about temperatures, but also about the wind as well as the wind chills. So you've got an 8-mile-per-hour wind from the north-northeast in Gulfport, and that makes 29 feel like 21. And it's not just in Gulfport where we're seeing those wind chill numbers down into the lower 20s, but pretty much anywhere. We're getting those wind chill numbers down into the lower 20s this morning. So here's another map showing the current reported temperature across weather stations across South Mississippi. Everyone's freezing. There's literally no number on this map on the Mississippi coast that is above 32 degrees. Now, technically, the keen eye would see a 33 out there at Petty Boy Island, but it's south of our coast, right? So anyone ashore, us landlubbers, we are bundling up as we see these cold, freezing temperatures this morning. Now, there's some spots, let's see, the relatively warmer temperature would be Keesler and Biloxi. Places near Biloxi Bay are around 30. You got 31, a temperature closer to Van Cleve during the 8 o'clock hour. And also at 31 there near Long Beach and Pass Christian. So keep that relatively warmer temperature in mind. I also want to point out some of the relatively colder temperatures. 25 degrees, I think, is the coldest number on this whole map, and that'll be for y'all in Lucedale near George County. Close second place for Perkinston at 26-degree temperature in second place there. But here it is, the wind, right? It does make a difference. Yes, the good news is that it's not as windy as it was yesterday, but the bad news is that the winds are not completely calm everywhere. And we're seeing some of the strongest winds this morning around Biloxi at Keesler, 12 miles per hour, as well as the Bay Waveland Yacht Club reporting 11-mile-per-hour wind. Gulfport 8 miles an hour, Woolmarket 7, Perkinston 4, Big Level 6, Picayune 8-mile-an-hour wind. So now we take a look at the feels like temperature, which takes the temperature and the wind and calculates them in the wind chill formula to produce a wind chill number or feels like temperature. And this is what I was talking about where, you know, you get some of these numbers, they're down into the lower 20s, down into the teens, kind of regardless of that difference. Remember earlier we showed you the difference between Biloxi, a temperature of 30, Lucedale, a temperature of 25. But when you go to the wind chill, it's the great equalizer because it's calmer up in Lucedale, surrounded by woodsy and forestry terrain, whereas it's breezier at Keesler and Biloxi because you've got that open water to the north on the bay, to the south on the Sound, and to the east on the channel. So with that kind of open air, less forest, less woodsy at Keesler, more open air, it allows the wind speeds to really pick up. There's less to get in the way, to interrupt the wind, so the wind can get a little bit breezier. And so, yeah, the great equalizer, right? Wind chill basically the same at Biloxi, at Keesler, as Lucedale, even though the temperature was pretty different, around 5 degrees difference. So that's what we're watching out for this morning. You can see the 21-degree wind chill in Gulfport, and we'll take you back in time just a little bit, just to show you the last 6 hours, the trend, which, by the way, has shown a wind chill 19. We had that earlier in Gulfport. It's come up a little bit since then, but it's not that different. Pretty much the last 6 hours, the wind chills have been around 20 degrees, give or take a degree or two. And we can also show you the snapshot of about during the 6 o'clock hour earlier this morning, a couple of hours ago. And you can see earlier this morning we had wind chill numbers in the teens in Moss Point, as well as at the Bay Waveland Yacht Club, and a 17-degree wind chill in Mobile because it was a bit breezier there, their wind coming from the Mobile Bay. All right, so now that we've reported all of those current conditions and recent conditions, I do want to remind you that we remain under a cold weather advisory this morning through 9 a.m. So another 30 minutes in which we could continue to see wind chills possibly dropping into the bitter cold teens. Although now with the rising sun, the trend will be that we're getting away from the bitter cold teens. We're still going to see wind chills into the very cold 20s though. And that means hypothermia and frostbite are a possibility if you're not taking precautions. If you're just walking outside in short sleeves, or you're not wearing a hat, a coat, layers, gloves, that's how you could get in trouble and run into those dangers. And so there we can see just a snapshot of today. During the 9 o'clock hour, temperature lower 30s, wind chill still middle 20s. But then once we get past that, we finally get those wind chills up to closer to above freezing. So by the time we get to 11 a.m., temperature 40, wind chill middle 30s. And then in the afternoon, we don't really have to deal with wind chills in the 30s anymore. And if you're in the direct sunlight, it might feel kind of nice as long as you're dressed for it. We got plenty of sun today. But there you go, tonight it's already going to start to get colder, but the wind won't be as bad, right? It's going to be almost calm wind tonight, so that you get the temperature to be the exact same thing as the wind chill, or feels like temperature, because that's what causes that difference when there's some wind. But when there's no wind, you pretty much get the same number, and that's what you see. Basically, once we get to 6 p.m. into the rest of the evening, temperature will equal wind chill, and we won't really notice much of a wind chill at that point. So I'll show you this map just to give you just the temperature. We're not talking about wind chill here. I know a lot of people just want to focus on temperature. So this is temperatures only, no wind chill numbers. And as you can see, during the 8 o'clock hour, still seeing those temperature numbers in the freezer. We go to 9 o'clock. Most areas are getting above freezing, slowly but surely. And then by noon, you got some lunch plans today. There's the numbers that you could be dealing with, mostly 40s across the map. So it's not going to warm up very much at all today. We're looking at upper 40s for the high this afternoon at 3 p.m., 2 or 3 p.m. We usually will hit that high temperature on a day like today. And then quickly cooling back by 5 or 6 p.m., already around 40, and eventually we'll go right back into the 30s. Look at this. Some places by 9 p.m. might already be at freezing. So yes, there is another freeze tonight, and that's what we're going to cover. First, let's talk about today. We just showed you some sun, no rain. There is still a little bit of wind. We'll call it about 6 to 12 miles per hour from the northeast. High upper 40s, plenty of sun, but it is feeling frigid, no warm up. And now we plan ahead. Hopefully you were protecting pipes, people, pets, and plants from last night. Those same protections go into effect again tonight. You can see before midnight, we're already hitting the 30s. After midnight, we are freezing. And then by the time we get to tomorrow morning, we're still freezing. So you have more than 4 hours of freezing temperatures, maybe up to 6 hours. I would say 6 to 8 hours of freezing temperatures overnight tonight on the coast. Could be a little bit more inland. But then once we get past tomorrow morning, that actually will be the end of freezing temperatures, I think, for pretty much the rest of this week. So tonight, if you had those protections in place for people, pets, plants, pipes last night, going to be in place again tonight. We're expecting a light freeze on the coast and a hard freeze inland. So that's how we could get back to those numbers in the 20s. So that's, again, going to be something that you watch for. But with no wind, I am curious. I do think that some of the numbers tomorrow morning, because these are your overnight lows, you hit that, the 26 in Wiggins, you're going to hit it at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. The 29 in Gulfport, Biloxi, you'll hit it at 5 or 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I'm curious if maybe we might be a little bit overestimating some of these numbers, because if we do get the wind to just completely calm down while the sky is clear, the temperature is really going to chill rapidly overnight. And sometimes that can make temperatures even colder than expected. Sure, there won't be as much wind, but I do think some of those numbers might be a little colder tomorrow morning in some places, not everywhere, but in some places might be a little colder, a degree or two colder tomorrow morning compared to this morning, because it won't be as much wind. And with the winds relaxing, it allows for more rapidly falling temperatures. So after tonight's freeze, there's actually not going to be any more expectation of that later this week. You see, today we are still tapping into those cooler winds coming in from the north and east. The whole map here is blue, indicating below normal temperatures for Monday across most of the southeast. But it's not going to stay below normal for long. What's normal for South Mississippi in December? Or should I say in mid-December, we're expected to be in the middle 60s. That's what's normal for us in South Mississippi in middle December. So below normal today, below normal tomorrow, closer to normal on Wednesday, and then we actually go above that on Thursday, closing in on 70. And we'll drop back a little bit on Friday with a cool front, but then it's a milder trend into the weekend before Christmas. So here's a snapshot of Thursday. And we're getting those winds to come in from the south and southwest. So that's going to help it to warm up. That wind off the Gulf might make a little bit more mugginess too, and that could lead to some better rain chances. There's actually going to be a rainmaker, a cool front moving in on Thursday. This is the map that shows that frontal position located right about here. There will be a low pressure system near the Great Lakes. And so out ahead of this front, it kicks up some warmer air, which is how we get to a warmer Thursday, temperature around 70. However, it also kicks up some moisture, so that's how we could see some of these rain showers forming in the region. And you can see those rain showers developing out ahead of that front. Now, this front is not going to come right down to us, but that cold is really going to mostly, what I'm saying is, let me draw this again. So this front is not going to come down toward the coast, but it's instead going to move mostly west to east. So this means we're really only going to get a glancing blow from this type of cool down. Most of it's going to miss us. The core of the cold with this will pretty much be here, and it will shift from west to east. So not really come our way. But it is going to push in some drier air so that by Friday, all the rain will be basically offshore of the Atlantic coast, offshore of the Gulf Coast. That's where all the rain will be Friday. And we're able to dry out based on the latest information. So we have dropped Friday's rain chance to 0% as a result. But before we get to Friday, if you're seeing some raindrops, that's why. The Wednesday, the day before that cool front gets here. Thursday, the day that cool front gets here. I think it gets here in the night, overnight Thursday night. So that's how we could see some of those scattered showers. And if you've stuck around to the end of the video, congratulations. You've made it to the portion where we'll take a quick sneak peek at Christmas 2025, which if you look at the weekend before Christmas, it's giving you a hint already that it's going to be on the milder side. Now, before we look at it, I do want to put into perspective, we love exaggerations. I hear this so often. People say it's going to be a hot Christmas, right? Well, just want to set the record straight. We're not forecasting 90 degrees. We're not forecasting 80 degrees. Those are hot Christmas temperatures. 70 is mild, but it's doable. So just keep that in mind, keep that perspective in mind. All right, so let's talk about the next 10 days. The trend is going to be away from below normal temperatures. This is pretty much it. If you are a lover of the winter feel, this is it for you today and tomorrow. Once we get past the Monday, Tuesday time frame, we kind of run out of the well below normal temperatures. We get that brief cool down around Friday behind the next front, but then after Friday, it's going to be a trend of relatively milder temperatures. Is it going to be record-setting heat, hot Christmas 2025? We're sweating, we're baking, dangerous heat. No, but it is going to be not as cold as what we have right now. Relatively speaking, it is a warm-up. We've had way hotter Christmases than whatever's coming. You can see that was Christmas Eve, by the way, a degree away from 70. And the map it shows it's not just the Mississippi coast that could see warmer than usual conditions on Christmas, but really for much of the country. The entire country, looking at this entire orange and red contour, you see across the majority of the lower 48 experiencing above normal temperatures, if not well above normal temperatures during the Christmas week. The only exceptions will be up near Seattle, up near the U.S.-Canadian border, up near New England. That's where the cooler air is going to be bottled up during Christmas week. But across much of the country, you're going to experience warmer than usual conditions. And so that means as we take a specific look at Thursday, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, December 25th, Merry Christmas for that day. It's going to be mostly sunny and high morning temperature in the cooler 50s, but an afternoon high probably into the upper 60s. And so that's going to be on the milder side of things. It could be close to 70. You know, like I said, we've probably had warmer Christmases, but I don't think we're going to break any records with this one, but it is not going to be, you know, very chilly kind of day. But of course, this information is subject to change. We're still 10 days away, and as we update and make adjustments every now and then, we'll learn more about the details of that day, especially if there's any changes. But as far as today's Christmas outlook, it is looking dry. It is looking mild. Is it looking hot? I don't think so. But mild is probably, you know, there's mild, there's warm, there's hot. We're not on any of those upper two. We're on mild, which is fairly comfortable. And I'm happy that it's dry, so that means travel could be, you know, perhaps not impacted. But we got a long time between now and then, and there is enough time for changes to happen. So something to look forward to as we close in on the holiday time frame, the potential for dry weather around Christmas, but also slightly mild weather around Christmas 2025. Well, that'll pretty much do it for this edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you for watching Waking Up with Wesley with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.